All right. So we've got a really important topic. It's an intense topic. It's a topic that isn't discussed enough among creators, but really should be. And that's talking about creators and their well being, some of the challenges unique to creators, and their mental health, their ability to avoid burnout. Should they take breaks? How should they align their schedules and their workflow so that they can best thrive? Plus, Tesla's got a new self driving car, a new addition, and Rob will have some of the details on that as well. What do you say we do a show?
Let's do it.
It's the StreamLeader Report live panel. Creators talking to creators. Raw, real, and unscripted. And sometimes they say the quiet part out loud. Here are your hosts, Claudia Santiago, Rebecca Gunter, Rob Greenlee, and Ross Brand.
All right, welcome everybody to the StreamLeader Report. It's great to have the whole gang back. I'm Ross Brand. My show is the StreamLeader Report. We have Rebecca Gunter. She is the Peach in Chief at Stone Fruit. We have Rob Greenlee, host of Trust Factor, and we have Claudia Santiago, the host of Viva La Stage. Rebecca, of course, is also the host of Business in the Raw. And we're going to talk all about creators and their mental well-being, their ability to avoid burnout. But first, I want to turn it over to Rob, as Tesla's got a new self-driving car. And apparently there's a lot of big updates for this version. Tell us what's going on with that, Rob.
Yeah, I know that I'm sure many have heard that Tesla's been working on full self-driving for a while, and a lot of their cars come with the ability to, for free, basically kind of do some self-driving. It's called autopilot, and I've been using it for over a year myself in my own car. But what Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla, and of about 10 other companies, but he did a live stream from his Tesla via his mobile phone, and has had like 47 million people watch this live stream from his Model S that was running the first version 12 of the full self-driving software. That is like a $15,000 upgrade to your Tesla vehicle. So not everyone has this. I believe it's like 400,000 drivers globally have access to the full self-driving software that's being regularly updated. But this 12.0 version that he demoed is running entirely on AI, and it has no specific code in the stack that tells the car to stop at a stop sign when the stoplight turns red, or navigate a roundabout, or slow down for a speed bump. Right. So what's happened is
so how
that
does it know?
Yeah. So it's been training this machine learning algorithm for the last 4 or 5 years or so, based on real world video driving. And so what's really revolutionary about this is the fact that it's actually becoming an autonomous mind. I believe it's tapping into a lot of the research that Elon's been doing with the platform that he's been working on called Neuralink, and he's created an AI platform that is really not too much dislike from the human brain, and how it functions and how it takes visual input and makes decisions. And that's kind of what this is. I mean, I think it's a big revolution, and the implications of this even goes beyond just self-driving. I mean, this is something that he could build into his robots. He could have this capability where all you do is feed the algorithm a bunch of good videos, right, of good behavior on the part of drivers and their cars, and the cars will replicate that in any given situation that is similar to what it's been trained on. So what this means, if you think about how we learn from, audio input, we learn from visual input, and we make, different, choices. We make our decisions based on our learnings and what we've learned about our environment. So if you take that analogy, that's what's really being on display here. And I think it's a huge change. And what's really, I think, the most interesting, and it's really aligns with humans, is the fact that it doesn't need an internet connection for it to do this. And it doesn't need a map, or it doesn't need like a GPS system for it to navigate the world. It just looks at the world. It's got 8 cameras in the car, and it figures out how to go and where to go based on its learnings. So each vehicle has its own autonomous mind, really, is what it really comes down to. I think up to this point, a lot of that's been connected to the internet. It's been very reliant on GPS data and that kind of stuff. But now he's moved into a whole nother realm. And I kind of wanted to share this because I'm not sure that most people really grasp what he's actually accomplished here and what the implications of it. So that's kind of the whole story. And we'll see. There's a lot of people speculating that we will see probably sometime in 2024 what's called robotaxis, which will be driverless cars that do not have any pedals or steering wheel. And these vehicles will be driving around, picking people up and dropping people off. And they will drive safer than human drivers. So because it's got more eyes, it's got 8 eyes. We only have 2.
That's interesting. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
So is this like an operating system update that, for instance, you could add to your car? You don't have to buy a new car to have this if you have a Tesla.
Yeah, it's really the same analogy for what we've been doing with our laptops and our PCs for a long time. We just get a software patch update, and that's what this is. I mean, when you pay the $15,000 or you spend $199 a month to get access to full self-driving, at some point down the line, I don't know if it's going to be a few more months. There's still some more bugs that he's trying to work out, but that'll be an option in cars that are under the Tesla name. So, and who knows, this technology could wind up getting into Fords and getting into BMWs and stuff like that, because he's already talked about licensing this technology to other automakers. So anyway, I don't know what anybody else likes to comment about that, but that's, he's right on the cusp of creating a artificial human being is what, and the analogy that I like to play is that it's always the goal, or always has been the goal, to create what they call AGI, which is artificial general intelligence. And I would say this is as close as anybody's come to having that. So interesting.
What I thought was interesting is you said your car does some self-driving.
I haven't spent the $15,000.
What is some self-driving? Like, what does that mean?
Well, that means that I can get on the road, I can activate it, and it will use all of its cameras and all of its sensors, and it will follow the road. It'll obey the speed limits. It's not going to change lanes. It's not going to do anything like that. That's where the upgrade comes into, is when it actually will navigate the world. So I could actually just enter a destination, and it will physically go through all the intersections. It'll change lanes. It'll do everything, stop at stoplights, all that stuff. But the version that I use, unless there's a vehicle in front of me coming up to an intersection, the car won't stop. So it is possible that the version I'm running will actually run stoplights and stop signs.
So you're letting it do some of the work. You can take your foot off the gas, so to speak.
Exactly, like on the freeway.
Keep a pedal on the
yeah, and it actually prompts you if you don't have your hand on the steering wheel. So you actually have to have your hand on the steering wheel even while it's self-driving. So yeah. But anyway,
very interesting.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm just on the chat here. If I'm looking down, Beauty Bubble's in here. And she says, we almost learned to make full stops at stop signs. Apparently, the AI knows something like 97% of drivers do not stop fully. Shocker.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. So Elon is struggling to get training video to be able to train the AI to fully stop at stop signs. So
It's not learning from other drivers. It's supposed to learn from its own experience of driving and the real traffic laws, or it's going to see people,
well, there's millions of Teslas out there that have the 8 cameras running and they're capturing that video. And the problem is that if so many people are speeding and running stoplights and stop signs and stuff like that, that's the training data that it has. So what they have to do is filter through the illegal activities that are in these videos and find the legal stuff, and highlight that. And that's what gets presented to the machine learning platform, is to actually learn how to stop at a stop sign.
Yeah.
I was reading a bit of that link that you sent, and blew my mind.
I know.
And one of the things that just popped into my head as I was reading is that, okay, so this is cool. It's got things figured out, but what about accidents? What about, like, no accident is the same? Something coming behind you, or a deer runs in front. How do they, you have to spontaneously respond to that.
Yeah.
How would that work?
Yeah. And that's one of the big challenges of full self-driving. And it's the challenges for humans too. I mean, if you think about, how would you make that choice if you had to? And can you really avoid getting hit by the side by another human driver that's out of control or drunk or something like that? I don't think that the AI is going to be tremendously better at that, but it might pick up activity that may be a threat to the vehicle before you do, because it has more eyes on the road.
Totally.
So.
And then how would insurance coverage work? Like, insurance would have to rework all their packages, because if it's a car that's Tesla AI, who gets the ticket?
Who's responsible is really what your
Tesla.
question is, right?
Well, their operating system.
And Tesla is offering its own insurance. So, not every state supports Tesla insurance, but as you can kind of see, long term, I believe Tesla will take responsibility for its vehicles' accidents. And if the accidents are not Tesla's fault, then guess what? The other insurance company pays for it. So it's in their best interest to design full self-driving and design these vehicles to detect these things before they happen, especially when it's on the fault of the Tesla vehicle. Right.
Do you see other auto manufacturers either buying, leasing the technology from?
Yeah, it's already being talked about.
Okay. So you see this as being something that ultimately this will be the standard in every car, whether you get it from Tesla or you get it from another automaker?
Yeah, I think it's coming, but the problem is, you have to really think about, how long do all of us hold on to our vehicles? They're, 10 years plus or whatever. So the transition of this is going to be relatively slow. If you think about how many Tesla vehicles are on the road, it's only like 4 million. If you look at the total number of cars in the world, it's like 300 million or 400 million or something like that. So it's going to take a long time for a lot of these older cars to go to the junkyard.
Most people aren't on the plan to get a new car tomorrow just because new technology comes out.
Well, and also, kind of another thing that's happening too is that the cost to produce these vehicles is dropping dramatically. Like every couple of years, it cuts in half. So there's a lot of speculation that you'll be able to get a electric Tesla vehicle for like $10,000 or $15,000 at some point here. So they'll be very inexpensive vehicles because Tesla has been able to cut out a lot of the production costs from this, and there's fewer parts, and that's one of the mottos at Tesla is that the best part is no part. So it's one of those things that if they can have the quality high, like these are some of the safest cars that have ever been made. At the same time, they're also they will ultimately be the cheapest cars that you can get. So, and the safest, and they'll drive themselves.
You have a Tesla, Rob?
I do. I have a Model 3. It's a
You do?
2022. Yeah.
Okay, so like if you wanted to upgrade to get this,
I can get it
what
in my car. Actually, the vehicle that he was driving has the same hardware in it, or sort of the same processor unit as my car has. So, as far as me being able to get it, I can get it anytime I want for $199 a month, but it's not going to be the 12.0 version. That still hasn't been released yet. It's just Elon just demoed it because it was really a revolution, but nobody publicly can get it yet.
So
So
you could send your Tesla out to do errands and pick up stuff.
at some point, I could actually turn that car into a robotaxi if I wanted to. And they already have technology that will open and close your garage door. And they're working on a charging port that will actually, it's like a robot. It'll plug into the vehicle automatically. So the car could come and go anytime it wants to go out and pick up a ride and take it somewhere.
So you
Take
could
someone
send it
somewhere.
out to drive like Uber or Lyft while you're at
Yeah.
home hosting
Exactly.
a show,
I
doing your
don't have
work.
to do anything with the car. It'll pull in and out of the garage. So, right.
You could cross the border and come see me.
It could. It could drive all the way up there to take you to the airport.
There
Right.
you go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that's a good point.
Okay, it's the game changer. Yes.
Yeah.
But also for older people too that have lost their license or whatever.
Oh my God, my dad would love that. He would have loved this. He would have gone bananas. I did see a story or hear a story on NPR over the weekend, and I put a link here in the chat about how anonymous protester, red driverless cars are being basically, kind of not prototype, but like beta tested in San Francisco. And anonymous protesters are, sorry, that link is really long, are disabling them by putting traffic cones. They'll stop if you put a traffic cone on top of them. And so there's a there's a rogue disablers out there who are stopping driverless cars with a traffic cone. So
a lot of the autonomous vehicles in San Francisco are like Waymo and some of these are operating with a lot of what they call LiDAR, which is a different kind of technology. They're not visual vehicles, right? They use radar and other technologies to navigate the world, and they're just not as good as what Tesla's doing. And it's probably going to fail what those companies are doing there in New York. Because not in New York, but in San Francisco, because you see constant examples of these cars don't really know what's going on in the world because they don't have that visual acuity to learn from their environment. And so they get into situations and they just stop in the middle of the road. They don't go anywhere because they don't know what to do. So, right.
Talk about the ultimate body cam, though.
Right.
So what kind of fuel do these Teslas take? Like, is it fuel or is it plug-in? Like what?
It's just electricity. It's just electricity. They have a big battery pack in it. So you just charge it up at night. I have a charger that I have in my garage that just plugs into it and charges it up. What's that?
You don't pay gas.
No, there's no oil in the vehicle at all. So.
And
period.
how long does it charge? Like how many miles or how many hours?
I get about 350 miles on a full charge.
Wow.
So,
that's a pretty long drive.
It varies a little bit based on, the elevation and the weather and wind and, temperature and things like that, but not dramatically.
Yeah.
I'm curious how many, or are there any kind of like dead zones currently? Like if you wanted to do a cross-country trip, would it be like, dang, but there's no charging stations in South Dakota? Like, what's that experience like for you?
Well, yeah. So Tesla has the largest charging network in the world right now, and actually a lot of the other automakers have licensed access to their charging network. I think they have I'm just guessing right now, like maybe 20,000 chargers across the country. That it may be higher than that. I could be completely incorrect on that number, but you can basically go anywhere you want in the country and be able to navigate. And the car will actually find those charging stations when you need it, and we'll recommend those that you can pull over and charge up and then continue on your way.
What about abroad? You know how your hair dryer works in the U.S., but you got to have a little thing abroad. I'm just curious.
No, it's all standard, the same equipment outside of the U.S. as it is in the U.S. So, if you happen to be able to, I mean, I don't think they have a submarine version of it to drive over to Europe, but
a submersible. Don't even go there.
Yeah,
it's probably coming, right?
Funny. Yeah, you kind of wonder. Hey, I know here in the Pacific Northwest, we've had a lot of forest fires, and kind of at a minute's notice they'll close down part of the highway. So how would a Tesla detect that? But I guess if it's got 8 eyes, it figures out a different route.
Yeah, well, once this really rolls out, it's hard to predict exactly other things it'll be capable of, because it'll be possible for these vehicles to communicate to each other too at some point. I don't think that's been deployed yet, but if the cars are in proximity to each other, they can know who their colleagues are on the road, and they probably won't crash
Where are
into
you
them
going to
as
dump
easy.
your human? I'm going to dump mine up in the woods.
Right. Boy, this guy in the back's a jerk.
Yeah. Wrong Tesla, calling Claudia Santiago Tesla. Oh, sorry, wrong Tesla. I mean,
could have an eject button in the back and just kind of pop him out of the.
Where are you going to dump your human? Oh my god!
Well, this is such a great topic. We definitely have to come back to this, and we will as progress continues in the driverless vehicle and electric car industry.
Rebecca's messed up now.
let's move on to our main topic, which is creators and their mental well-being. And Claudia, you and Rebecca really started this with a conversation in our group chat. Whichever one of you wants to go first can kind of lay out the issue.
This is Claudia's story, baby.
All right.
Okay, well, I'll go. Well, one of the first things I said in the comments is, hey, I'm thinking about talking about this. I know it's not a trending topic or hot and sexy, but it's kind of where I am right now. I literally had to take an unplanned break because I got laryngitis, like a strep thing, and it just wiped me out. And literally, I had no voice. I'm still a little hoarse. I sound like a chain smoker right now, but anyways, it's all good. But as we kind of presented that, like I just really felt like, I know we talk a lot of tech here and a lot of really cool stuff, but again, we're not dumping the human anytime soon because we're still here. So that's my angle on it, is how, as creators or entrepreneurs, just human beings, how do we, see the red flags? How do we create a life of balance and health? Because at the end of the day, you're either going to take a planned time off or an unplanned, like I do. And it started this awesome conversation, you guys. And this is one of the things I love about this panel. Honestly, it's like therapy. We laugh and we can talk about real stuff, not just the biz stuff. So as we got chatting in there, Rebecca piped in, and I was like, it was like a breath of fresh air. Here's Rebecca. This woman is like strong. She's a go-getter. She's like freaking amazing. Like, she juggles so many balls, and that I just so admire her and glean from her so much. And then she said, I'm overcoming autistic burnout. And I'm like, what? Like, and it really touched my heart. So the ball's in your court for now. I'm tossing the ball around the court here. Rebecca, go for it.
Oh, thanks, Claudia. I thought it was really sweet how you wondered whether or not that was something I'd want to talk about publicly, and it definitely is. I think for all creative people, whether you whether you are autistic or neurodivergent in any kind of way, or you are neurotypical, it is until the Elon Musk AI general takeover, where we don't need creative people. Burnout is very, very real. and I'm so excited to like really get into how look, I'm like so in it right now. In fact, I came to this panel today with no makeup and a plain shirt to really just kind of represent how you'll have to structure your life, I think, to mitigate burnout and what that means for folks who have to be creative on demand. I have clients who are like, I'm writing a website, I'm writing a white paper, I'm writing an email sequence, I'm positioning a brand new podcast idea. All of that requires a tremendous amount of creativity. Yeah. And for me, as someone who does identify as autistic, that is a superpower that I can bring to the table and think out of the box, generate creativity very, very quickly, but it also will drive me into burnout. I've done nothing but work all summer long, kind of driving the momentum and the visibility behind, Ross's panel show just like this. And it will send me into a tremendous state of burnout where I can't even like process words, become kind of nonverbal. And for a writer, that sucks. So I think it's something we all kind of are challenged with. And I'd love to hear what the boys have to say, whether they face burnout and
I just want to add in, like Rebecca, you are new to all this live streaming. Some of us have been live streaming, for ages, but you're juggling all this, but then the learning curve. So you add that on top.
And I would say, again, like I said, I came with no makeup today because for a man to go live, they can do it just by opening their camera. For a woman to go live, it requires a full freaking face and a lot of effort to go into it. And that gender disparity, I think, also adds to the burnout because the expectations are different for the amount of preparation that women have to go just to turn the camera on.
That's for me, for sure, especially on a live stage, like on a broadcast stage for sure, but even a live performance stage. The pressure on women is huge. Some of my guys will roll in their jeans and stuff, and I can't get away with that.
This is actually nerve-wracking to be here with no makeup on. Yeah. It's nerve-wracking because of the public form of it and what the expectation is. So whether, even just like burnout from creativity alone, just to get to the platform requires a whole level of activity. And it's nerve-wracking if you don't do it. But we got to normalize it some way.
Yeah, I think that there is a history of that expectation. I know it's interesting. Hopefully that will change over time, that we don't have that that kind of feeling that the women have, that they have to look a certain way or be a certain way or something like that to actually do this. And I agree with you. Men have it much easier. Though I take a shower and shampoo my hair before all my live shows. So it's,
you apply your eyeliner deftly.
I don't have any powder that I put on my face, but I actually have heard there are YouTube videos out there that will say that even guys need to get powdered up, to have a natural look on their face and not like a shiny, on the forehead because of the studio lights. So I think, I need a little powder up here, right? Yeah.
Or we could again normalize just being kind of who we actually are.
Yeah,
I think to Holly's point here in the comments that no makeup is the most authentic of who we are, but it takes some courage to get there, and that's just one aspect of burnout,
right?
For sure.
Yeah, it takes effort. I know that was a lot of the big reason in the early days of podcasting. I used to work for a company called Podcast One down in Los Angeles, and we had a lot of celebrities that came in to do conversations in the programs. And one of the pushbacks that the executives had back then, this was back in 2014 timeframe, was why they didn't want to do video in the studios was because it required too much of the celebrities, that they felt like they had to get all dressed up and makeup, and and we had to hire all these makeup people to come in and make sure everybody looked like the celebrities that they are. And that was the pushback. And then subsequent years later, like more now in this time frame, they're doing video in the studios now, and there's not as much of an emphasis on that. the celebrities are coming in a little bit more natural and not trying to get all dolled up and stuff. They're trying to be real, increasingly. And I'm not saying this to say that some of them don't get dressed up and don't get makeup done. I think many of them do, but they probably, I do think that it's relaxing a little bit on that side. Like what you're doing today, Rebecca, I don't see as revolutionary. In some ways, I see it as kind of where we are now, right? Of all of us being more real on these video shows. I mean, that's really what's going on with the independent media now. Is people are showing up just in the way they are, more and more.
I have a friend who was just on a really big video podcast, one that has just 1.5 million subscribers, and I asked him, it's a panel situation and bunch of regulars, and he was their featured guest, and I asked him if they put all the talent put makeup on or not, because I was just curious if at that level they do that, and he said no, everybody just sat down as they were, and they did the show. There was no formal fuss or any of that stuff. But I know at TV level they're still doing that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Even just to walk through the door in street makeup, though. I mean, not necessarily have your makeup done, but like no face.
Right.
It is a little bit.
I've been part of media tours where they will not let you on the set unless you have the pro makeup on, the pro hair is done. If you show up and you're not in sort of uniform, you're out. They won't. They won't interview you. They won't allow you on the platform to do that. And of course, when you're working with, with these media tours, sometimes that I do, sometimes there's hundreds of talent coming through. So to them, it's no big deal to turn you around. If you're not in uniform, you're out. So, that's still very much a thing. And then sometimes and I understand that too. Sometimes you're interviewing, but sometimes there's magazines there. There's people that pay a fee to come and take pictures of talent or celebrities. And so if you're not done up, they can't use those pictures on their media. And anyways, that's kind of the angle I come from. But one of the things that sparked my interest too was when I was reading this, it's in Canadian Living, it was a link there, and it talked about just different things that can cause burnout or hinder us as creative, as anybody. And the one that stuck out to me was the text neck. How many times we're here?
You're leaning,
so you can see.
You're looking down all the time.
We're here. Okay, your head. It's like a bowling ball. It's heavy, and so with your spine, it'll do this. So if you're constantly doing that, you're going to have problems with headaches or even spine type injury, because it's a lot of pressure. I'm just going to read a couple things. Texting thumb. Yeah. Sometimes that. Also too, with the text head, it's also if you're sitting at a computer screen a lot of hours in the day, if that screen is not up at a certain level, you're going to get that problem happening back there. A mouse finger, sleep disturbances. So again, being in front of camera, being in front of light, they make some suggestions here about turning that down. I know Bruce and I, what we do in the evenings is actually we change all our daytime lights and we turn on our soft lamps at night, just to start, a few hours before bed, just to start kind of bringing that down. So digital eye strain is a big deal. Anyways, I won't go into everything, but just on the tech end, because we're always creating that way too, and our position and all that affects so much. I love that Rebecca's been so open about some of the challenges she faces when Bruce and I moved to Calgary, Alberta, we didn't know Calgary is actually the migraine capital of the world.
The migraine capital. Wow.
We are up really high, and we get this thing called Chinooks that come through. And actually, when they come through, they're beautiful. It's like a warm wind, and you look at the sky, and like there's like this arch cloud. It's really quite something. And I grew up on the West Coast, and we didn't have any of that. But what I didn't know, and again, there too, this is where what Rebecca says is it touches my heart so much, because if we stay silent about our issues, our problems, our challenges, we can't get the help. Well, Claudia's like, I've been a survivor of a civil war. I've battled life-threatening diseases. You know, I don't talk about my woes enough. And I kept silent about these headaches. And I mean, they would knock me out. I didn't know what was happening to me. I went to see my doctor finally, and he said, oh, this isn't like the West Coast. West Coast is at sea level. We're way up high. And you've moved to the migraine capital of the world. So, you know, he just said to me, you need to start talking to me about this, because there are solutions. And if there's no solutions, you're going to have to move. Nice. At the end of the day, too, he mentioned things like how I'm sitting, how I'm positioning my head. That can also contribute to trigger these migraines. Anyways, I'll shut up for now. But, you know, I guess what I'm trying to say is encourage everybody. Don't suffer in silence. Get diagnosed, get tested if there's, and sometimes there's seasons in life as we get older, we're walking through a season in life. Well, it may trigger some things that maybe you never battled before. I never battled a migraine before. And you know what? When I tour outside of Calgary, I have no migraines. It's crazy.
That's interesting. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, I was just in.
Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, I was just in Denver and at the Podcast Movement, and the elevation of the hotel, because I've got a little measurement app that can tell me what the elevation is, and it was about 5,600 feet in elevation where the hotel was, and that's a big change from where I'm at in Connecticut at about 600 feet in elevation. So there's a big difference in the amount of air that's available and things like that. And I kind of struggled a little bit at different times with sleeping and things like that at that elevation. Though you wouldn't think, 5,600 feet is that high. It's not like it's 14,000 feet or some crazy height that, Denver's known for, but it's still, I was talking to a few locals and they were telling me that there's a lot of people that travel to places like that, and then they go out running or something, or they think that it's just like where they came from, and they wind up having a lot of problems because they just don't have the air at that elevation. And so that can contribute to a lot of stuff too. But the burnout stuff that you're talking about, I've been facing that for years because I've been working, just really aggressively on trying to work with all these communication apps and trying to keep up with inbound communications and trying, be a content creator and work and build partnerships with people all over the world. And it just, the burnout really comes, I think, from trying to navigate all these different time zones around the world. And it forces you to work like round the clock almost.
Well, I know when I worked in radio, I went through a stretch where I had to get up really early, like 4 a.m. for I was probably like a month and a half stretch. And it took me a long time to get back to feeling like myself after that. I fortunately, most of my jobs, I've worked the afternoon drive shift when I worked in radio, but that one time, and I was like, I can never do mornings because it just that interruption of your sleep, and then knowing you have to get up early, at least for me mentally, was like, okay, I better go to sleep by this time, or I can only get 4 hours of sleep. I can only get 3 hours of sleep.
Right.
So, I mean, I had one job where I did it once a week, and that was bad enough. And it seemed to snow every day, every time that I'd have to shovel first, and then. But I think to some extent now, even though we have a lot of people who are doing this kind of work have some flexibility over their schedule, they end up working more and at more weird hours than they would, just because technology and news and the topics that we cover and updates and
And these
discussions
things,
and new strategies, and of course social media where
yeah,
it's going 24/7, it becomes hard to put that stuff down and not feel like you're falling behind or you're going to miss an opportunity,
hmm
or there's always one more thing you can do to promote a show or to, make a new contact or find out some information that you can use. And I think it's very easy to get caught up in all that. I guess a question I would ask everybody is like, do you guys have any structures in place or anything where you block off on a calendar, like I'm not working Saturday or Sunday, or I'm taking December off, or like how do you schedule time if you do to recover?
I do.
yeah, I
I
do.
schedule time.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, I think Saturday and Sundays are really kind of, a lighter load every single week. So that's always my goal. It's not always something that I'm successful at because sometimes I'm traveling for work even on the weekends. So it's just a matter of taking time off on the weekends as much as you can, because during the week is when most of the activities and anyway. But the big challenge that I have is just the expectation of communication with the outside world, and how all of us, I think, when we send a message to someone, kind of expects a response within a reasonable period of time. And that can be a challenge when you're trying to do that across, maybe 6 or 7 different apps, plus email, plus, Slack and all these mastodons and all these platforms that are out there, right? It's really difficult to keep up with everything without burning out.
I would also add we all grew up in a capitalist society, and your productivity and value are intrinsically linked. So if you're not hustling, also I'll point the finger at hustle culture. If you are not hustling, if you are not productive, if you are not answering your email, if you are scheduling breaks, there's an internal struggle there of whether or not you're am I building? Am I going to make it? Am I going to have a success? Am I valuable?
Right.
I have a hard time resting, like just kind of like I should be cleaning out my garage. I should be reorganizing the cabinet.
You should be
I get a lot of
lawn.
there's a lot of shoulding. I should on myself a lot around the idea of productivity, and I've had to deprogram my own attitude, and it's still a struggle.
It's not just technology work. It's just, homework from a standpoint of mowing the lawn or doing laundry or, doing the dishes or folding clothes or whatever. I mean, all those
feeling
have
like
to
a human.
fit into your workflow as well. So it's personal things too. Yeah.
It is. And I think it's so important to know ourselves. When I lived in Vancouver, I could keep a really cool rhythmic kind of schedule. Moving to Calgary, when I get hit with those migraines, I may be out for 4 to 6 hours during the day, and then that thing will lift and I'm working at midnight, and that works for Claudia. When those migraines hit and I don't have any relief from them, I can't push myself. I've had these migraines hit me when a Chinook's come when I'm just about to get on stage, and all of a sudden I'm on stage and I'm seeing, why am I seeing spots everywhere? And why do I feel like I'm going to throw up when I'm singing? And I still have to carry a show. I didn't understand that until I started understanding what I was battling wasn't some infection or anything. It was a migraine due to like a Chinook. So I think if we really get to know who we are and where we're living, if that affects you, I think then you come up with your own rhythmic thing. Now, if I have a week where there's just like last night, there was a storm that rolled through here, and I mean, I was up all night with intense migraine. I had to take my emergency migraine med. But I know this afternoon it's going to be nap time for Claudia. You know, so
Yes, go
ahead.
I spent 2 years in an apartment. This was like, a year ago. I was in an apartment for 2 years when I moved from Seattle out to Connecticut. And I think back on my time in an apartment, and my life was a lot easier back then, from the standpoint of the workload on me, trying to keep up with a house and things like that. So if you own a home, it can be a aspirational thing to own a home, but they're also a huge responsibility, and there's constant work that has to be done around the house, in the house, especially if you have a large house. That can be challenging, and you can get help. You can get maid services to come in and clean and things like that, and you can hire lawn mowing services and stuff, but that takes money, right? So it's, I think it's kind of interesting to think about it that way, from the standpoint of where you live, how you live, what your, there's this perception that owning a home is the best thing to have, but maybe in our modern society and our culture, it may not be, just because you can't keep up. Right.
So true. So true. When I was kind of chatting about this topic, I had also something that inspired me. I saw on my timeline, a friend of mine in the United States. This woman is like a mover and shaker. She's the leader of, anyways, she's just very, very, she's a doer. And she took 8 weeks off to write. And also just to get grounded again. And I mean, she is pulled 10 different directions and has an office and all that. And, just reading her thoughts and how taking that break was so good for her, all around. Where she got new perspective, quality relationship time for herself. Writing in itself wasn't a job in the sense of something she was meeting a deadline or anything like that. She chose to write through that 8-week period to help her kind of vomit if you would, just to let herself heal from way too much stress. Yeah, so good.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that's something I'm really starting to understand. I mean, autistic burnout is a whole separate animal, and recovering from that requires more than just rest. And it's actually such an interesting story that you bring up, Claudia, because what I'm learning is it's not just about like laying still and just resting or sleeping, but that you really kind of, have to restructure your life to accommodate it, to Ross's point of adding and building breaks in, but also to couple that with couple it with creativity. Not this maybe what you're doing for your work life, but to couple it with some kind of other creative endeavor in order to like the antidote to autistic burnout is not just sleep or time off, even though I really have to bake that into my schedule, but that you have to create kind of new systems or a new way of being that prevents you from being in a burnout cycle.
Yeah. I had, there was a season in my life that I was walking through some really, really, really stressful, tough stuff. And it was very personal. And I honestly couldn't focus on too much else. And I took some time off. And like, I come from a whole line of like architects and like people that are very, very good with drawing and pencils, and all I could ever draw as a kid was stick man. I don't know what the heck, there was like this blockage, and I would never even attempt because all my brothers are like prolific artists, and I was just like, yeah, I suck at it, I won't do it. So anyway, I was walking through this valley, if you could see it that way. And for whatever reason, I had this internal desire to go get paints and a canvas. I'd never done that before. So I got myself some paints and canvas, and I just started painting and sketching. And I discovered this talent that I didn't even know I had. It was locked up until I hit this really low, dark valley in my life, and it unlocked this beautiful thing. And today, when I know I need to rest, I paint. And that's my outlet, and it helps me heal. It helps me, yeah. And it's never meant to be something like I market or whatever. But I don't know, Ross, if you remember when I used to do these paint shows called Viva La Creatives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was during my time. I would throw up a camera and I just talk to people and I would paint. And sometimes I'd sing as I paint. It's the funniest thing. And it was just healing for me. But a lot of people that watched that thought it was healing. So anyway.
And I think it's important, too, that, like, I say this not as somebody who's in any way conquered this, but somebody who's, like, got to learn how to do this. But it's important to take breaks when you're healthy, not always wait until you're burned out or you're sick. Like, it's not really scheduling a break or taking a break from work if, gee, I got really sick for a month and I couldn't work. The value really is, I would say, like, the last time I really scheduled a break that wasn't like the break of my arm or my shoulder was like in 2017. I was feeling like, okay, I need a little time off from hosting shows and stuff. And I took about 6 weeks where I didn't do anything related to live streaming or clients or anything like that. But I did it at a time when I was healthy and things were like, it wasn't something forced on me. Mm-hmm. And I got to say, after that 6 weeks, I came back and like everything just started taking off for me. And perhaps I should do that more often. But usually I only take a break when it's like, okay, I have to, you know. Yeah. I'm sick, I'm injured, I got family, something I've got to take care of, or, you know, hey, like I can't do this anymore right now because of something else. But when you take it with intention and you do it before things go off the rails, I think you come back like you're so happy to be back doing it. You're so like, okay, if I have to do this, I'm going to do it with everything I've got. And I mean, I've seen people over the years, like in radio and sports and stuff, where they take a break and they come back and they're always better. It's like the bad habits kind of wash away, or they're back to doing things on instinct in the beginning. And it's like the body resets and what they've learned has sort of been incorporated, and what wasn't working but they've kind of been doing out of rote goes away. I don't know what it is, but I notice that people often come back better. And yet the way it happens, particularly when you work for companies and stuff, is you get a very brief vacation, you're right back at it, and you're kind of just on that treadmill, and you never really get enough time away that you can come back with that new idea or that improved approach, or just your skills kind of refresh and reset, and all of a sudden you're doing it at another level because you've been able to incorporate everything you've learned.
It's like a prevention, you know, like we do things to prevent heart attacks. We do things like, I know, even in our marriage, like we schedule in a date night, you know, we've been married over 30 years now, and you know, you go through valleys and stuff too, but the thing is, we've learned over time is you can't, once you hit a problem, then it's harder to fix that. So if you're setting yourself up for that. I mean, I do this thing where I do a daycation, where I will choose a lovely place to go, and I'll peel away and just nourish Claudia. So sometimes, yeah, that's how I kind of do things. I plan stuff to prevent, so that I'm not reacting to when I've already hit the burnout. So I guess that was the other question I was going to ask y'all is, what do you when, like, do you have a prevention plan, or what are some of the red flags that when you know you're heading towards burnout?
I would suggest that the biggest sign you can pay attention to is your own body, is to listen to your body. You know when you're headed towards burnout, and that's the biggest indicator towards when that's happening. And then the second piece of that preventatively is by baking time into your calendar, which is what I normally, like, about every 3 months, I try and bake in at least a week where I don't have any calls or anything. And I did not do that this summer, and now I'm hurting for sure. So preventatively, and then also listening to your body. I put a note in the comments about the creator Jude Charles, who is the most prolific person I've ever heard talk about burnout, and he is definitely worth a listen, and how he addresses this in his own business, and he's kind of made this the hill he's going to die on. And I've learned a lot about preventing my own burnout just by kind of heeding his warnings. And he takes the entire month of June and December off, the entire month.
I'm so jealous.
I know, right? But look, that's the beauty of having your own. That's the beauty of having your own thing.
Right? Yeah.
If we can just get the courage to just stand tall. That's what I struggle with. Like I baked 10 days off of my calendar for October. I looked for a space for it. I was like, at least I'll have that. Now, how do I not get caught up on client work? Start writing a personal essay, feel like I got to start. My pipeline is drying up and freak out. You have to be calm and to bake that in, I think.
Yeah, and there is another angle on this to some degree, because what I found by taking time off is you come back and you're just so buried that it's stressful when you come back, and so I've kind of taken the approach of trying to kind of moderate myself along the path, right? Not so much, have this extreme behavior while I'm working and then this, taking 2 months off or something like that, because that can cause a domino effect. I mean, let's say you have a full-time job or you have responsibilities and people expect things from you and you have to perform, right? So those are always things that are kind of undercurrent to this whole thing. And I think that really my approach has been is to properly manage the whole process, taking a little bit of time off continuously, right? Versus trying to do this kind of separation from it for long periods of time, which causes other domino effects. So I think, taking a little time off during the day to go for a walk, do stuff every day to give yourself mental breaks is, especially if you're in a role or in a job that requires you to be kind of like working, continuously. And I mean, I went for years myself working in the podcast hosting business of really not even ever taking vacations, just because what I found was whenever I took a vacation, I mean, unless I turned my phone off, work would continue because not everybody else is taking a vacation. So it's like, right, people that, want to hear back from me or want me to decide if I'm going to be a speaker at an event or be on a live show or be a guest on a podcast. So you're constantly getting these requests coming through, and it can come across as rude. I mean, I would love to have an AI virtual assistant that could, kind of manage that incoming, right? That could schedule it, get it in my schedule and handle the emails and all this kind of stuff like that. So I can be off, at the park or whatever, or walking along the beach somewhere and not have to be on my phone all the time. So I think that's the era that we're coming into too, is that the expectations don't always match up with what our abilities to take large chunks of time off, without a consequence.
I want to give a shout out to Beauty Bubble and Julie Riley and Holly Lee and everybody else in the chat. Thank you for sharing your experiences with this interesting and important topic. I think when you get into technology, which is really what it is, that's enabled people to be in touch with us 24/7 and made us feel like, that sense of FOMO, or that sense of, hey, I could be doing more right now. I could check another post. I could write another email. I could contact another client. That's not exclusive to creators, really. That's an issue that's affecting all layers of society, or at least most people today in their business. So if you have friends, family members who are, not at all in the creator space, they still got their phone there. They're still checking. They still are very, and so that becomes a whole nother issue. And whether you block out time that you're just not online, and again, that's something that I'll just let go until something comes along, or I just can't, I just need a, what do you call it when you take a digital detox or whatever.
A brain break.
I might go 24 hours or so without even looking at, or a couple days without looking at my phone. But it'd be better if it was planned. It would be better if it was done more strategically.
Now the cool thing is with tech is there's tools we can use, like for email. We can set it up where it says, hey, I'm out of the office until such and such a time.
Yeah.
So then you're not just not just dumping people. When we drive, the same thing. If we're driving and we don't want to be distracted driving, we set it up so that our phone says, hey, I'm on the road right now. It does an automatic. So, sometimes we, I think, again, prevention. It's like, okay, what tools do we have in our hands to block some of this time off for ourselves, and how can we just use tech to our advantage that way?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It could be an asset as well as something that keeps us attached. I'm wondering, have you guys changed your approach to social at all? Do you focus only on a couple of platforms? Do you try to be everywhere? Do you focus more on only engaging or only scheduling? Or have you come up with a way to handle social that you can still be effective with it, but not overwhelmed by what could be a always on tool?
Yeah, I think I've adjusted over the years. I've been on social media since 2007 or something like that. I think I've kind of backed off from it from the perspective of being really personal, family, that kind of stuff. As far as posting content like that, I've been really more focused on trying to use social for a very specific purpose around my career and my business activities. And offering help that way versus making it a platform for posting, pictures of my dinner or my vacations or something like that. It's
Tesla,
which I don't take, but it's just a matter of I think not using social media as what could be perceived as a little bit of a weapon against others, I think is kind of how I've adjusted too. It's been more like, well, what content can I offer like this program? What content can I offer that helps people potentially? It may or may not be helpful to people, but that's kind of how I've changed my approach to social media. It's not so much about a bragging platform, which I think a lot of people kind of have positioned it to be, is that, well, this is my high life experience. I'm traveling here and traveling there and doing stuff that other people may look at and say, well, I wish I could do that, but I can't. So, that kind of stuff. So I'm trying to shy away from that kind of content.
I personally just give yourself permission to let it all go. I know that that there are people, you know, who are like, what about your visibility? What about your marketability? And certainly my business coach will be on me, but just let it go. Just let it go. There are whole other ways you can communicate with people. And I just think the more pressure we put on ourselves to be present beyond all the platforms, it's overwhelming. Like, you know, Ross, like, I don't know how you do it, man. I don't even remember one of the first times I was on one of your shows and you had given, here's the media, here's the link. It's on LinkedIn. It's on Facebook. I'm tagged on Instagram. Like, it's like, I'm in
Ross has
awe.
been pretty prolific out there. I agree with you.
I am in awe that you check those boxes every week. Like, I just have to lay down my arms, man. I
had to call just kind of halt to the Facebook threads thing. It was just one more platform that just didn't, it just didn't feel like it was worth the time to spend over there. So I don't know if you guys feel that way or not, but I think it's a little bit of a dead platform, if you ask me.
It was useless. It was nice the first day connecting with people in my feed who, like, I hadn't chatted with for a few years, and then it was like, okay, what is the point of this? I've got 12 years or whatever invested in X, or 10 years, and you know, it's a live breathing platform that's got variety of opinions and variety of industries, and and Thread seemed rather stale.
Right,
in comparison.
It's good. Yeah. Go ahead, Claudia. What do you have to add to that?
And I get it, but you know, too, this is where, you know, how I mentioned before, how every quarter I take an inventory, right?
Yeah.
Okay, this is where, okay, how can the virtual assistant step in? How can automation step in? Okay, if this and that, you know, there's certain things that work for automated things that, you know, you'll never see Claudia Santiago automating private messages. Like, it just won't, I just won't do that. But you can even put at the top of your platform you're on, I don't respond to direct messages here. What I do is I get people to send a message through my website. Then it grows my database. Then I actually get messages that are legit. Usually if it's spam, they won't even come through. Do you know what I'm saying? So there's certain ways that we can use technology, we can use systems to bring down that stress thing.
Yeah.
Do you find you have a platform that's most effective for you, or is your biggest priority? Like, if you had something going on and you wanted to make sure people saw it and you had time to only post on one platform, where would you post it?
Yeah, so for me, it would all depend on who my target market is. For example, if I'm touring Europe, the Europeans are not going to see my posts on certain platforms or because of the time difference. So I always target. I try to target what I'm doing, what my goal is, my outcome is. If I have, let's see, something that I want everybody in Edinburgh, Scotland to see, because I'm going to be there, I want to rock their boat and I want to meet them, then I will target a Facebook ad specifically for that, specifically for the genre that I'm performing. So that's how I use my tools. I have an online presence on just about every platform there is, but I don't, I won't target my LinkedIn following if I'm doing my rock show necessarily. You know what I'm saying? Like, It all depends who it is. So that's how I do things. Again, every quarter, I'm going to go back to this, and here's something I'm going to go into because it may not be the prettiest thing, but sometimes in every quarter too, it's not just what I'm doing, but who I'm working with and who I've allowed in my sphere of closer entrepreneurial relationships, clients, venues, peers. Okay, I do an inventory there because sometimes it's not so much that I'm doing too much. Sometimes it's that, unfortunately, you start working and people come into your sphere, you let them in closer or into your social, and they're toxic people. and they're stirring it up, or they're only there. Yeah, you know what I mean? They're not there to work alongside you or to be for you, but they're actually either there just to scope you, to connect with your connections, to like, it's toxic, I guess what I'm saying. So what I do every quarter too is I go, okay, what thing can I just put on the shelf for this quarter and maybe take it up next quarter, or maybe take it up next year. We're not axing it, but we're going to put it here.
Right.
But where is there toxicity where I need to draw some really hard boundaries? Okay, sometimes it's not toxicity. For example, I'm just going to use an example. Sometimes not toxicity against me, but let's say I have musicians that I'm working with, or let's say recording producers, whatever, and somebody's come into the camp and they're just wreaking havoc with the team. Well, I can't destroy a team because there's one person that's starting to, right? So that's where I'm going with this, is where are the boundaries also, not just our time, but what we can tolerate. And what, one of my mentors that leads an organization, she said to me, Claudia, we got to nip things in the butt, like quick. Don't let it go long term. Don't let it keep festering. Nip it in the butt. Do it. Either they're going to come and work alongside, or bye.
I think that's a really strong point, Claudia. It's not just about how much output is burning us out, but what is our input? What's our environment? Even on social, what are we ingesting? What are we taking in? Is it fast food, or is it nutrient dense? Are people around us, contributing, filling our buckets or dipping our buckets? Certainly, burnout can feel a lot worse if you're surrounded by people who don't have your best interests at heart, or don't have that golden trust factor.
Right.
Using up the energy and creativity that you would be applying to your work, or to people who you derive positive energy from working with, and you're spending it on people who might be causing problems or things in your life that might be taking you away from what you really want to do, and not leaving you enough energy to really get at what you want to do. And I mean, I think the older I get, the more I realize, like, for most of my life, I didn't always consider, like, what was taking up the energy, what was taking up my focus when I wasn't working, and what impact that has on the rest of your life. I think it's easier, I don't know, at least for me, it's never been easy for me to say no, but it's easier for me to say I don't want to do that, or I can't do that, or it's not good for me to do that, or just like, I don't have time to get involved with that, and I don't care, and I don't feel bad about it anymore. Maybe that, again, I think it comes, at least for me, as I get older, it's like, I don't have to pretend that I'm interested in something I'm not interested in, or I don't know if I'm expressing it exactly right, but
no, it's so true. And too, as leaders, like, if there's a project we're leading, or our own business or whatever, like, when we take ownership of that, just like our own bodies, our own mental state, we've got to know who we are. We've got to take ownership. And that took me a while to learn when I started leading my own, producing my own events and all this thing, Sometimes people that will come along, they don't understand the groundwork you've done. They don't know the investment you've made financially, time-wise, put your butt out there. Like, they don't get it. And they just roll in entitled, thinking they can just do whatever they want. So again, there too, just taking ownership, and being, one of my mentors says, be responsible with what you've got in your hands, and rule kindly and justly, but make sure you're not taking responsibility, and all of a sudden they'll just walk away with it or kibosh something.
This is such a great topic. We're going to have to come back to this because this is an ongoing thing that we all deal with, and everybody who's watching and listening has to deal with as well. So it's been a great discussion. We'll be back again next week, Thursday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern, for another Stream Leader Report live panel. For Rob Greenlee from The Trust Factor, Claudia Santiago from Viva La Stage, and Rebecca Gunter from Business in the Raw, I'm Ross Brand. This has been the Stream Leader Report live panel. See you again next week. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Bye.